All right, here we go.
Okay. I'm Elena Caceres, and I'm presenting the first affirmative constructive. Contention 1. Violent crime against persons is a significant problem in California. Subpoint A. The police are under no legal obligations to protect the individual citizen. Don B. Cates Jr. attended Reed College and Yale Law School. Gun Control, A Realistic Assessment, Pacific Research Foundation, 1990, access November 19, 2012. Even as a matter of theory, much less in fact, the police do not exist to protect the individual citizen. Rather, their function is to deter crime in general by patrol activities and by apprehension after the crime has occurred. If circumstances permit, the police should and will protect a citizen in distress, but they are not legally duty-bound even to do that, nor to provide any direct protection, no matter how urgent a distress call they may receive. Subpoint B. If 500,000 officers were assigned to patrol, they could not protect 240 million citizens from 10 million criminals. Don B. Cates Jr. attended Reed College and Yale Law School, Guns, Murders, and the Constitution, A Realistic Assessment of Gun Control. Pacific Research Institute, 1990, access November 25, 2012. Even if all 500,000 American police officers were assigned to patrol, they could not protect 240 million citizens from upwards of 10 million criminals who enjoy the luxury of deciding when and where to strike. But we have nothing like 500,000 patrol officers. To determine how many police are actually available for any one shift, we must divide the 500,000 by 4, meaning 3 shifts per day plus officers who have days off, are on sick leave, or etc. The resulting number must be cut in half to account for officers assigned to investigations, juvenile records, laboratory traffic, etc., rather than patrol. Subpoint C. Less than 5% of 911 calls are dispatched to police fast enough for them to stop the crime. Richard W. Stevens graduated with honors from the University of San Diego Law School. Just Dial 911, the myth of police protection. The Freeman, Ideas on Liberty, April 2000, access November 25, 2012. Americans increasingly believe, however, that all they need for protection is a telephone. Dial 911 and the police, fire, and ambulance will come straight to the rescue. It's faster than the pizza man. Faith in a telephone number and the local cops is so strong that Americans dial 911 over 250,000 times per day. Yet does dialing 911 actually protect crime victims? Researchers found that less than 5% of all calls dispatched to police are made quickly enough for police officers to stop a crime or arrest a suspect. Subpoint D. California has a high percentage of households reporting gun ownership. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, the founder and director of Front Sight Firearms Institute. Shall issue concealed carry for California. Front Sight's Monday blog, January 9, 2012, access December 5, 2012. There are tens of millions of us gun owners in California, and now is the time to be heard and be counted. With budget cuts reducing police forces, prisons being forced to release dangerous inmates before sentences are served, and the increase in crime that follows recessionary times, citizens are purchasing guns at a record pace to protect themselves. We have the greatest percentage of households reporting gun ownership ever, and people want to be armed and trained to carry a concealed weapon outside their homes for protection in their daily activities. Subpoint E. There were 163,957 violent crimes committed in 2010. Kamala D. Harris is the Attorney General for California. Crime and crime rates by category of crime statewide. Department of Justice 2010, the most recent year for which California Department of Justice has crime statistics. Access November 24, 2012. There were 163,957 homicides, 8,325 forcible rapes, 58,100 robberies, and 95,723 aggravated assaults. Contention 2. Making California a state that shall issue concealed carry handgun permits to its citizens will significantly reduce crime. Subpoint A. There are no substantial costs of gun ownership by law-abiding adults. Don B. Cates Jr. attended Reed College and Yale Law School, Gun Control, A Realistic Assessment, Pacific Research Foundation, 1990, access November 19, 2012. Against these palpable benefits, there are no substantial costs of gun ownership by law-abiding responsible adults. Such ownership may marginally increase the number of gun accidents, but the vast majority of these stem from gun misuse by the same aberrant group of reckless and or violent people who perpetrate the mass majority of murders. Applying these irresponsible gun misuse, accident, and murder rates to gun possession by the average citizen makes no more sense than estimating that citizens' chance of dying from a cut based on death rates among hemophiliacs. Subpoint B. If states issued handgun permits, murders would decline. John Lott Jr. has a PhD in economics from UCLA. More Guns, Less Crime, Understanding Crime and Gun Control Laws, University of Chicago Press, 2010. Access November 18, 2012. The results are so large, indicating how important laws can be. When state concealed handgun laws went into effect in a country, murders fell by about 8%, rapes fell by 5%, and aggravated assaults fell by 7%. In 1992, the following numbers were reported: 18,469 murders, 79,272 rapes, 538,368 robberies, and 861,103 aggravated assaults in counties without non-discretionary laws. The estimated coefficient suggests that if these counties had been subject to state concealed handgun laws and had thus been forced to issue handgun permits, murders in the United States would have declined by about 1,400. Subpoint C, criminals will have minimal contact with the victim when there is a threat of being shot. John Lott Jr. has a PhD in economics from UCLA. More Guns, Less Crime, Understanding Crime and Gun Control Laws, University of Chicago Press, 2010, November 18, 2012. On the other hand, property crime rates increased after non-discretionary laws were implemented. If states without concealed handgun laws had passed such laws, there would have been 247,000 more property crimes in 1992. That's about a 2.7% increase. The increase is small compared to the changes that we observed for murder, rape, and aggravated assault, though it is about the same size as the change for robbery. Criminals respond to the threat of being shot while committing such crimes as robbery by choosing to commit less risky crimes that involve minimal contact with the victim. Subpoint D, civilian handgun ownership averts thousands of victim injuries and deaths. Don B. Cates Jr. attended Reed College and Yale Law School. Gun Control, A Realistic Assessment, Pacific Research Foundation, 1990, November 19, 2012. The empirical evidence establishes that such victim gun ownership results in the interruption and frustration of about 645,000 crimes each year. Another 280,000 handgun uses yearly are for... I now stand open for cross-examination.
All right. So, in your first contention, subpoint C, you state that 5% of all 911 calls dispatched, they don't get there fast enough. So, why call?
Why call?
Yeah, why are they there?
Why are the police there? Well, they're there to protect the public, but they're not legally obligated to protect the individual citizen.
So everyone should have a gun?
We're not saying that everybody should have a gun, but the option should be there.
To kill people?
Not to kill people, to defend yourself.
To kill. Okay. And subpoint D, first contention, you say you want them to be armed and trained, but in these shell states, you don't have to necessarily be trained by professionals before you have concealed carry handgun.
We're proposing that if we do make California a shall issue state, then you have to meet the proper criteria to own a concealed handgun permit. So you can't have a history of mental illness or substance abuse or be a felon.
Or don't have to be trained.
You have to be trained.
Okay. And in your contention 2, subpoint C. Do you think criminals today, do you think they think, like, oh, maybe if I run into the store and try to rob the cash register, do you think he has a gun? Or do you think the guy in line has a gun? Do you think that thought process goes through today?
It will go through their minds if California is a shall issue state.
But do you think it does today?
No, because we're a may issue state.
But people still can have guns. They can still carry permits.
But not enough of us do.
Okay. And what do you think with the shall issue states? Do they think that, oh, everybody will have a gun now?
Yes, criminals will have minimal contact with the victim when there is a threat of being shot.
But there's always that threat.
There's not always that threat.
No?
No.
If you're going to a store, you don't know who's in there. It could be a policeman, could be a fireman, could be anybody with a gun. They could just have it on them. They don't even have a license. They could just have it. I think criminals go through that every day because they're criminals. But
time.